By the way, B, I like that background, by the way.
Thank you.
It's so nice. It's like
Thank you.
calming. We were talking about each other's
Oh,
hair before we started here, just so you guys know. Oh man, so nice to have you here.
thank you. It's so nice to be here.
Well, you're talking about some topics that are very dear and near to me,
Uh-huh.
especially in psychedelics. But I noticed you have is it a conference coming up in September in Vancouver?
Yes, Vancouver, BC, Canada, September 10th.
I'm like right near there, literally.
Where are you?
I'm in Blaine, Washington. So
Oh,
about
that is so close.
crazy, like 35
You
minutes away.
you have to get your ass up here then for that day.
September 10th,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, September 10th.
It's a Friday. I want to learn more about it because I'm so close. I have the Nexus Pass. I just pop over the
Oh
border.
my gosh. Well, yeah. There's no reason why you wouldn't be here then.
We got to talk about it.
Yeah.
I want to hear about the Sisters
Yeah.
in Psychedelics, how you came into this and how it's affected your life. I would love to know.
Wow. Yeah, definitely happy to be telling the story. Where do I even start? I guess I'll start with like a little bit about my background and how I came into this whole world.
Yeah.
So I was born in Surrey. I'm kidding. So essentially, graduated school and I worked in corporate HR for about 7 years. And at that point in my career, I just kind of, I guess, like realized over a gradual period of time where like I'm just not very happy. Like I've been chasing this like material success that society has been telling us and that makes us happy. But once I got it, I'm like, I don't know, I just feel the same. And so I did the most logical thing that one person would. I quit my job and I bought a one-way ticket to Asia. And that was 4 years ago. So drastic change and moved continents. I changed careers, and really the I guess reason for me going back to Asia was twofold. One is to be on my own ancestral lands, to be close to my grandma. I stayed with her for on and off for about like a year or so, and really just learning about my own like family history, my culture, my language, my traditions, and all that. And the other part of it was to start building my own online businesses. And I learned through a series of working with different entrepreneurs what that took to do that. And so super, super interesting. And it was in the midst of all my travels, I landed in Thailand, and that was the first introduction to psychedelics to me. So I had magic Thai mushrooms. It wasn't really what I was expecting. I actually didn't feel too much on it except for like a light buzz. And so I tried again, still not much, until I started mixing things together. And I'm like, oh, okay, finally, I'm getting that feeling. I'm getting that, experience that all my friends are talking about. But it wasn't in the right set and setting. And I think we both know that's super important.
We do.
Yeah. And kind of fast forward to, COVID happened and I came back home to Vancouver, and I wasn't quite ready to be here. And digital nomad hotspot at that time, and I think still is actually Mexico. So no testing, no quarantine whatsoever. And so followed my friends, went down there and actually stayed for 7 months. And during that time, I just kind of dove in really deep with plant medicine and sacred ceremony and sitting with medicine in general. So I did my first ayahuasca, my 5-MeO DMT ceremony. I fell into a crowd of people who were just very spiritually open and curious, and did a lot more medicine work that I did, and was able to teach me setting, safety, dosage, intention, all that beautiful work. And that led me to come back to Canada, because about 6 months in, like you're supposed to get out of the country and come back. And so I left and came back home, and I was really trying to find my tribe. Like, psychedelic medicine, it really does change you from the inside out. And so how you look at the world, the perspective, and your relationship with certain things can change drastically in a very short amount of time. So when I came back home, I was looking for my people, and specifically a women-focused community within the psychedelic ecosystem. Couldn't really find it. I found my friend, Dana Harvey, and she was looking for the same thing, couldn't find it. And so we just thought, why not just put something up on Meetup and like see what we can call in. So late November or last November, so 2021, we had our first potluck dinner at my house, and it was 15 all random strangers, women, who showed up at my house, and we just basically shared our stories of healing transformation, and we laughed and cried the whole entire night. And that's really how SIP, Sisters in Psychedelics, was formed.
I mean, that's a pretty good story. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of travel in
Yeah.
there and a
Yeah.
lot of incredible experiences. So, I think it's interesting. We're in this very, I feel transformative time. Like all of a sudden, psychedelics is starting to surge in the mainstream consciousness, and especially with Michael Pollan's Netflix special, How to
Yes.
Change Your Mind. I read the book, I listened to the
Mhm.
audiobook. I mean, psychedelics been part of my life for like the past 6 years. So it's like I've been
Wow.
into it, but like I hear other people now, like who have never even thought about it. Talk a little bit about your experience, because I think a lot of people still are like, okay, you said you didn't get like the experience you want. I'm guessing
Mhm.
that's kind of like the mystical experience or the larger thing that you didn't experience first. What was it like when you first experienced that experience you wanted to have?
Ooh, the one I wanted to have. Let's see. The one I wanted to have, I would say it was the first time I actually sat in ceremony.
Mm.
And that was with, it was like go big or go home, right? That was with 5-MeO DMT, which is also
Wow.
known as the God
Oh
or
my
spirit
God.
molecule.
Holy
And but
shit.
you know what's really funny that led me to that decision is I wanted to do ayahuasca, and I've been hearing about
Okay.
ayahuasca for like about 2 to 3 years at that point in time, and I was really like scared. I was really scared to do
Yeah.
it because like
Yeah.
I've heard stories from people, you might not have the best experience. It's really intense, and so on and so forth. And so I was actually looking for something that was like smaller to start me off on. And so I was looking for psilocybin. I was looking for a
Yeah.
psilocybin ceremony. And the place that I was in Mexico at that time, I was in Merida, and they just didn't have it for whatever reason. Like people weren't visiting at the time, just didn't have it. And so the couple that I was talking to that was facilitating these ceremonies are like, we don't have that, but we have a 5 ceremony.
Crazy.
Like, it's like, it's not smaller than what what you want, but like, maybe you should start at the top and work your way back down.
Wow.
I'm like, there's some logic to that.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay. Okay. And so I bit the bullet and I went, and it was, really, and have you done 5 before?
No, but I just heard it's like blasting off. Like
Yeah,
that's what I've
it
heard.
is
I've just
like,
done psilocybin, like big
oh, okay.
doses. Yeah.
Big doses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, big doses of psilocybin is pretty much like ayahuasca.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but like, yeah, for 5, it's I would say it's like instant ego death. You don't really, yeah, there's no time for you to make a choice. Like
Wow.
it just happens. And you know what's really funny with me, I the whole time, so basically, let me describe the ceremony. It was during the day, which is a little bit unusual for me because I don't know, all the ones that I've been to is usually during the nighttime because
Yeah.
under the moon you can work on your shadow work and stuff like that. And so it's during the day, so I'm like, that's new. And we did rapé, which is tobacco and other kind of like dried herbs
Yeah.
mixed together, and they basically blow it up your nose. And that's not my favorite thing to do. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely never going to be a cokehead. So they blow it up your nose. And with that, it's kind of a sensation of like stinging almost. Have you tried rapé before?
No, no.
Yeah, it's a bit of like a stinging, like it goes up to your brain kind of. And for me, I don't know how they blended it, but it was so powerful. I was literally rocking around in a circle. Like I was sitting still straight up, but I just felt like my body just moving in tune with like energy and whatnot. And my vision was going blurry to the point where, if you can imagine like old television sets, and when it's not working, like the picture actually like moves up and like it starts from the bottom and goes back up again. That was actually my vision in real life. And I was just like, I think this is enough. I don't think I have to do 5. This is like a powerful experience already. But of course I couldn't back out now. Like everybody's like there, right? And so they went and they served people individually one by one. And I was the second person that they picked. And basically they're like crystallized shards, and they, like the bomb. And then you're supposed to inhale
Yeah.
for, I think, a count of like 5 or something until it fills your lung, and then like slowly blow it back out. Probably by like the 10th second of the whole thing, I was like out like a light. So I like
Wow.
fell over backwards. I literally couldn't even have the strength to hold myself back up, fell over to the blanket. And I remember watching the first person who went, and he rolled on his side. I'm like, good idea. I don't want to choke on my spit. So,
Yeah.
so I rolled over to my side, and I literally just like melted to the ground. Like I didn't even know where my body stopped and where the ground started. Like it just, you become, I think that's the oneness that people are talking about.
Yeah.
I couldn't really feel my body. And at that time, my brain was still working, and my brain was chitty chatter, like all about, is this ego death? No, I don't think so. Because how can I still talk to myself right now? I don't think I did it right. No, I probably didn't do it. So like, there's all this like little, internal chatter that's going on. And when I came to, the medicine giver, she came back to me. She's like, I feel the need to serve you again because I don't think you took a big enough hit. I'm like, how did you know? I was thinking about that the whole time. And she's like, see, the medicine knows. I'm like,
wow.
okay. And so we did it again, and basically the same thing happened, right? Fell over backwards. And I remember it was my first time seeing fractals. I feel like I'm not like a person that does a lot of visuals when I'm on these medicines. And finally I'm like, oh, so this is what fractals look like. Okay, cool, I get it. But it was the same type of internal chitter chatter. Did I do it right? Didn't I do it right? Well, why am I still so like conscious? Like, all this stuff. But again, my body wasn't there. And afterwards, I was doing a lot of Google research and watching YouTube videos about like, well, what is ego death? What is ego dissolution? And that was it. I had that twice. But the lesson for me there was really, I'm so fixated on trying to get this right that I didn't even notice that I did it. And so to me, that's like, where else am I doing this in my life where I'm not celebrating the successes along the way and just kind of really overlooking things and keep trying to go? And I think that's very paramount to our society nowadays, right? The whole hustle culture.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so, yeah, good reminder for me for sure.
Wow. That's crazy. I went in twice. I mean, ego death thing is crazy because like I did this wonderful spiritual walk in the desert with a guide, and it was a heavy dose of psilocybin. And I remember he was telling me when it was happening, he was like, you're still there. Everything else is, because I felt like my body just falling apart, which if you never feel that, it's one of the craziest feelings ever to know what you exist like without your body. Like it was, but it was so peaceful also to feel almost not burdened by that anymore. In a sense. And I was like,
you were walking in the desert?
In the desert. Yeah. In Nevada.
Walking
in the desert. Yeah. It was crazy. I had like a crazy, huge experience.
Yeah. So, okay. My questions are like, how big of a dose did you take? And then how did it feel as you're walking, but not feeling your body move?
I did 4 grams. It's pretty high.
Okay.
And I just couldn't feel my body. Like my limbs didn't exist. It just was gone. It was like, it just felt like I was a floating entity.
Wow.
And I remember just watching my hands grow really big and then just dissolve. And I think if I didn't have a guide, that would have been very scary for me.
Oh, for sure.
Right. It's scary to like experience like a death almost. It's like you're dying on a weird level. Yeah. But it changed. I'll agree with you. Like it changes like how you see things dramatically. Like everything turned green to me. It was like, bloop, everything turned green. It was like a light switch. It was crazy. Very crazy. There's a lot more to that story. I'm telling you.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I want to hear it. Tell me.
Like, like breathing mountains, watching the mountains breathe. That was tripping me out. And then my guide turned into a green monster. It was so weird. It was, I mean, I was having a
scary way.
It wasn't scary. It was funny to me. It was just funny. I was like, yeah. And then like I had a very incredible experience of, I walked barefoot in the desert too. And then I knelt down to the ground and put my hands into the ground, and I saw the veins of the earth just grabbing my hands and becoming one with the planet. That I started crying, like sobbing. I understood what nature meant then. I understood it at that point.
Wow.
That was crazy.
Powerful.
That's powerful. Like you cannot be changed after something like that.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy. But 5, like the 5, that I keep people have done, they say, "Oh, you just blast off." It's like there's no time. It's just boom, done. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I have to work myself.
Well, you know what? There's another one that's even, I think, more intense, and I'm not interested in really trying it at all. It's iboga.
Oh, I know about that. I don't want to be blowing my brains out and stuff and like barfing and shitting
Yeah.
all over the place. I'm like,
I don't know if that happens on iboga or ibogaine, but for me, like I don't know how intense or how much more intense it is, but it's the length of time. So once you take it, it's like something crazy, like 42 hours.
yeah,
Like
I don't need that.
72 hours or 36 hours. I'm like, I don't want to do that.
I don't
No.
need that. I mean, by
Yeah.
the time, like, I was like done being in the experience, my really, really big one. And I started wondering if people were real and stuff like that. And I went past people hiking on the trail and was like, I asked the person, "Are you real?" Like and I was like, I want to be done with this. I was like,
Yeah, well, I've been there myself too, where maybe I've gone a little bit more than my comfort zone, or
yeah,
like a bit more stretched than I would have liked. And I'm
yeah,
like, yeah, I kind of want to, like, go back down a few levels, or like just kind of end it early. I
yeah.
think there are pills for that now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like if you
Huh.
get too high, you can take something for it. I don't know the science behind it, but there are definitely brands that are manufacturing something like that.
And it just pulls you out of it?
I would assume so. Probably not like right away, but more of a
Yeah.
gradual type thing. Yeah.
Wow.
I'll have to try it myself, and I'll report back to you. Don't
You
worry.
got to tell me.
Yeah.
Well, we might be seeing each other. I mean, like,
Yeah, well, yeah, so close.
well, I'm interested. What's the what isn't, this is kind of a localized conversation, but also I think it's important for people all over to know, like, what's the scene in Vancouver with psychedelics? Because I've heard a lot of different things about Vancouver
Mm,
and psychedelics. Give me the scoop.
yeah. So I would say we are decriminalized here. Psilocybin anyways. I don't know. I
Yeah.
can't speak about the other ones. We have about, I don't know, 7 to 10 psilocybin or psychedelic dispensaries up and running.
Come on.
Yeah. So
Really?
actually, yeah, we have one partner in particular called Truffle Health. They're in Gastown, on the east side of Gastown
Yeah.
here in Vancouver, and they are they regularly have like American clientele that come up for the weekend. And I was actually there when a group of them came in. They're like, they just walked in and they're like, wow, oh my God, I can actually buy mushrooms here.
Yeah.
They're just like in awe of that.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, this is normal. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so, I've heard of this a little bit about that. So is that something? So do you have like your favorite spot you like to go to for that? Or how do you, I don't know. I got to get him a different way.
Yeah,
I got to get him a different way. Like, you don't have to say it. You don't have to say the name.
Okay. Like, I don't know if I can give you my sources,
I got a source too, but if you say, like, think about it, I'm in America. Like I get like,
yeah. Well, you know what? It's funny. I think there's a lot more underground brands in the US.
yeah.
And they're like a lot more better, like packaged.
Oh,
Like
interesting.
it looks like really nice. Like they put a lot of heart and soul into it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Man, I can't wait till this is like, just this foolish thing is over with all of this stuff. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
so foolish. And there's an appetite. Clearly now it's being put out in mainstream, like film, documentaries. Clearly they know people are getting it somewhere,
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
So
Well, in Canada, we also have I think back in February or March or something, we had this special access program that was rolled out nationwide. So what that means is doctors, psychiatrists, mostly doctors, were able to apply on their patients' behalf to get access to psilocybin, MDMA, and like other things as well, so that they can use it legally for their treatment.
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really, are there any studies going on in Canada and Vancouver area? About the drugs or medicines, not even drug.
Yeah. I was like,
give me a break. What are we talking about here? Jeez.
Yeah. I'm sure there are. I just can't think of any on the top of my head. There are definitely institutions here or organizations here. So I would say Vancouver is the psychedelic capital of Canada. So if there's any kind of forefront things that are happening, like I'm in the right city.
I got to get up there more often.
Yeah,
I'm right here, literally.
Yeah.
Well,
You
the
should.
pandemic messed me up for a while because I couldn't go across the border. I mean, Canada was
Mm,
closed to,
right. Yeah, that's true.
so I
We're
recently,
open now, though.
right, I've been to Canada a couple of times and I was reading about this street. Sorry, people, if I don't want to blow anybody's cover, but
Which
this
one?
place in Vancouver where you could basically like the cops don't even really like mess with it or anything like that. It's just like you can just go and get psychedelics. I don't know. I read it somewhere on a
Oh, I
thing.
was like, which street? Like, I
Hold
should go
on, I
check
don't
this
want.
out.
Let's do this
Yeah.
offline.
Okay, we're talking after filming.
Yeah, after this
Yeah.
is we'll be talking
Yeah.
for that.
But so some of the organizations that are based here in Vancouver is actually
Mhm.
MAPS Canada. So the Multidisciplinary
Oh, okay.
Association of Psychedelic Studies. Canada's here. They say that they don't have an office, but like it's here. And there's also Theracell, which is a nonprofit organization, and they do training for, I think it's ketamine assisted therapy. So they train the people who would be therapists using this type of medicine
Mm.
to be healed. There's also Roots to Thrive, which is a ketamine program that people can go through. And even Field Trip Health opened up a Vancouver clinic here. Yeah,
Wow.
so lots of stuff happening.
Lots of stuff happening. So tell me where the Sisters in Psychedelics is going. Like, so you're having this. Tell us a little bit about the September 10th
Mhm.
meeting of psychedelic folks.
Yes, yes. So before I jump into that, let me backtrack a little bit to so how we were formed. And so basically that was only 8 months ago. And then fast forward to today, we basically we've launched a whole bunch of things. So we're the first ones in Vancouver to organize a women's only integration circle. And integration circles are for people who have gone through psychedelic experiences and need some help kind of putting that back into their daily life, interpreting it, and like just wanting to get feedback or just wanting to express themselves and be heard and be witnessed. So that's what we do on a monthly basis. We also host BIPOC sharing circles that I do online virtually. My partner, my co-founder, Dana Harvey, she hosts our psychedelic professionals sharing circle. So for people who work in the field, therapists, business owners, investors, and so on and so forth. We also, on Thursday, we're starting our moms sharing circle because moms is actually a really big group, or I think the biggest group that are using antidepressants and SSRIs for like postpartum depression and all that type of stuff. So introducing them to, hey, potentially putting down your, pharmaceutical drugs and picking up more natural type of a medicine alternative to help you with coping and whatnot. And on top of that, we also do socials. So the Netflix series that you just mentioned, Your Mind on Plants, aired last Tuesday. And we had a little get together at Dana's place where we had a potluck dinner. We watched one of the episodes and then we just had a little discussion about it. And we do educational workshops. So a whole bunch of other things that may not necessarily be psychedelically related, but within the entire like healing modality type of a thing. And so the summit that's happening on September 10th, it is here in person, Vancouver, BC. It's going to be downtown. However, we're also live streaming it for the whole entire world to join in and on witness. And the live stream tickets are free for everybody. So I'll make sure that you get the link to that. And essentially, this is a 1 day of celebrating women in the space who are doing some really, really, really good work in the psychedelic ecosystem that may not have the recognition and acknowledgement that they deserve. So we're really just shining the spotlight on them, helping them platform their wisdom, sharing that. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun, to be honest. It's kind of like a fast and fluid type of a style. We have 30 speakers for like a 9-hour conference.
Wow.
So lots of panels, lots of solo talks. It's, I've been calling it an unconference. So instead of just kind of, instead of like the, I guess, typical like networking type thing, we're also embedding like yoga and movement breaks. We're going to have like sound baths at the epic after party that is not to be missed out on. We also have like medicine drum and circle that we're going to be doing. So a lot of the variety of topics is literally everything from like accessibility of these medicines to integrating these medicines to listening to people's transformation stories. And we have Dr. Pam Crisco giving our keynote, and she's going to be talking about basically the lay of the land, psychedelics, where are we now, where are we going type of a thing. We also have a panel of business leaders who are women that are either founders or executive levels of a psychedelic organization. So lots of stuff. And like some of the more juicy topics is like, we're going to be talking about sex and intimacy and psychedelics. We're going to be talking about money, trauma, and psychedelics, and how all that kind of comes into play.
Wow, this is a serious deal.
Yeah.
Like my head is spinning on this because I've been looking for something like this.
Oh, okay.
And because I produce a lot of series on my podcast and stuff of different stuff. And in one of the series I'm doing, it's kind of a weird offshoot, but I'm doing a series firsthand account of people who grew up in the Children of God sex cult. And it's going to be crazy. But like one of the people who grew up, she's a psychedelic therapist in Austin, Texas. Okay. I'm like, I want to do that. I want to be a psychedelic therapist. Like, I feel very strongly about this. But so I'm kind of like trying to find different places or kind of shop, like programs and things like that. Yeah. Maybe this is an off your conversation. I don't know. But is that something that is available in the Vancouver area that people are educating people how to become psychedelic therapists?
So the first thing that pops into mind for me would be definitely take a look at Theracell. I can shoot you their website afterwards for that, because they do training. And I don't know specifically in Vancouver who would be doing that. I'm sure there are, I just don't know who. I know there's a few over in Alberta that's actually quite, has a good reputation. So like Phoenix Academy is one, Optima Training is another one. Down in California, there is CIIS. That's a pretty well renowned. And yeah, like other more, I guess they're more like accredited institutions that do that. Yeah.
I see. That's interesting. I mean, like, this is why like I wanted to talk to you, because I was like, oh, B's doing that. I want to get as many people on my show that are talking about psychedelics within all the other conversations I have. So I just had Michael Thornhill on from Casa Galactica, right? And I told him, and he was like, oh, I know B, who she is. And so like, I'm just trying to get as many people over time, because I see this coming. I know where this is going. I know where this is gonna hop over the moon. It's happening. It's totally happening in society. And I want to platform that for a lot of people. So like when you said, oh, people, we want to get people out there and stuff, bring them to me too. I will give them a nice space to talk about this. Got it. And so that's something we could talk about that too off air, but for sure. I think it's such an important thing. And if anybody listening, if you've ever done this, you'll see why I'm so passionate about it. You would know immediately. B knows.
Yeah. And get it. Yeah.
You can't unthink it. You can't unthink about it. You cannot unsee what you saw.
Yes. I say that a lot too. Like you can't know what you know.
Yes.
You can't unlearn what you learned, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for offering for that space. I'll definitely tap into that.
Please.
And I think, a related note to it is like, SIP, what we're all about is not only amplifying women's voices in this space, but also other underrepresented voices. And so, for example, the community right now is just for female identifying people. However, the event, the summit itself, is everybody's included. Yeah. Because we're realizing, we know that we cannot lift women in a vacuum. We need to allow other genders to come in so we can borrow their voices, borrow their platform so they can shine a spotlight on us, and together we can lift up.
It's so true. I mean, I think for me as a Black man, like I don't know a lot of other people of my ethnicity that talk about this or have access to it. So there's lots of meanings for me with this, doing that. And it's just so funny that you're right across the border for me. Like,
you need to come up.
I know. Just the September 10th thing. I'm like, I think it's a Friday, I think. Maybe it's a Friday.
It's a Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, I have to I could easily get over there. So I gotta get all the information.
Yeah, you should.
Because I think it's, man, this is just so needed. I see more of this happening. More of this is coming. And I think it's like anything, getting on the ground floor of stuff and the wave is coming. I see it. It's like a little wave, and it's starting to like, you know,
It is,
and
yeah, for
it's
sure.
just silly. All this, like, I feel like you got to sneak around and stuff. It's just silly. You
Yeah.
know, it's like,
So what's the scene down in Washington like? Or
you know, I
maybe, yeah,
think the closer
Plains
you
especially.
are to like more Seattle, or if you're like Columbia Rivers, like a bigger scene there.
Mm.
But you know, I'm up in Blaine, which is like the country essentially. We're like the Tijuana of
Oh,
of
really?
Canada. We're like Canada's Tijuana, man.
Yeah.
It's like it ain't nothing going on. Like,
Okay, so two things. One, I don't know Blaine that well, but I know that a lot of Canadians go down there to open up our PO boxes, so we can
yeah,
get
yeah,
mail.
it's
We can
weird,
get mail,
man.
and like, yeah, so we don't have to pay for, import export.
Yeah.
And then so what are you doing in Blaine?
So I just live here primarily for the lifestyle. I moved from Las Vegas
Oh, okay.
like 4 years ago. I moved my family up here. My business partner in my fitness businesses, he lives up here, and he's lived up here for like 20 years. And I had
Mm.
never been up here. And I was like, and I came and visited. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. This is like a very different. And I wanted to go to a smaller place. Like,
Mm.
I mean, Blaine's small. It's like a little over 5,000 people. It's hardly
Oh,
anybody here.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow, wow.
it's country, but it's also right near Vancouver, and it's
Yeah.
so beautiful here. It's so mind-blowingly beautiful. So it's a nice, peaceful place to be.
Mm.
A good place for my daughter and my wife. So it's just it's actually we moved also because of my psychedelic experience. No lie,
Oh.
I had no respect, no real interest in nature before my psychedelic experience. And my big one. And after I did that, all I wanted was to be around like green stuff, nature, water. It was like a heavy determinant of why we moved as well. That's what it does for you. I'm telling
Yeah.
you,
No, it
like,
does. It totally does. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so I just, it's neat. And I wanted to be near a bigger city also. So this kind of fit that, you know, and
Yeah.
Vancouver is a beautiful city. And it's
Yeah.
so beautiful.
Are
It's
you
such a nice
closer to
place.
Vancouver than Seattle?
Way closer. Seattle's
Oh,
like two and a
really?
half hours away from us. So
Okay.
Vancouver is like Vancouver is a way better city. Sorry, Seattle people. It is like Seattle's not great. I'm sorry. It just isn't. It really isn't. Like,
There's pros and cons to each one. And like I have to say the
I mean, you could
diplomatic thing.
say
There's pros
that,
and
but
cons.
I just
Yeah.
not my type. The traffic is mind
Yeah.
blowing. It's just like I don't know. It's not my. It's just hard to get in and out. It's gone downhill quite a bit, Seattle. It's just. I mean, I know Vancouver. It's very expensive too and stuff, but there's just something different. Vancouver, it feels cleaner. It just feels like a different pace. I don't know. There's
Mm.
something about it, and the food scene's hard to beat.
That is
Vancouver.
true. That is really true.
Yeah.
Our Asian food is known.
I mean,
It's like the best outside of Asia. So
and then you got that town Richmond going up towards like, which
yeah.
is like I've been there and I've read magazine articles about people talking about Richmond has some of the greatest Asian cuisine in the entire planet. This
Oh,
town,
really? Entire
this place.
planet. Wow.
That's amazing, isn't it? I think it's
It's
amazing.
the nickname for Richmond when I was younger. I think it probably isn't the case anymore, but we used to call it mini Hong Kong.
Mini
Because
Hong
like
Kong.
yeah, because before 1997, when Hong Kong was returned back to China, there was like an influx of immigration
Oh,
of
I
Hong
see.
Kong people that came over here.
Yeah. And Whistler's amazing. I love going up there to Whistler.
Yes.
I mean, it's hard to beat Whistler. That's
Yeah.
incredible too. A
Yeah.
mountain bike up there. So
Yeah.
just a lot of good stuff. But the psychedelic scene seems like it's really growing in Vancouver
Mm,
based off of what you're telling me. And where do
yeah.
you see this going, Sisters in Psychedelics? You're having this thing. What's the vision beyond this?
Yeah. I think our goal is really to just like uplift, like the fact that it's 2022, and when we're looking around at the other psychedelic conferences and podcasts and other things like this, the male to female ratio is so skewed, and a
What
lot
do
of
you mean?
them.
Like more males? Like
Oh, definitely. It's like an 8-to-1
really?
ratio. Eight to
Wow.
one, 8-to-1.
Wow.
And not only that, but like, where are the diversity of
Right.
people like you and I, right? Like it's a
Right.
lot of like older white men in the space,
Oh, I
and
see.
like they're hitting the conference circuit. And so like you see their name, you see their face everywhere. They're kind of giving the same talk over and over and over again. People
Oh,
are kind of
okay.
getting bored. So it's like, okay, well,
Okay.
we need to change that, right? Like and I think as the gender, right? I think I can say this, the gender that is more used to being, I don't know, I was gonna say the word shy, but that's not the right word. More and more like self-conscious or like
Mm-hmm.
self-doubting a bit.
Okay.
We're not used to being encouraged to put up our hand to be like, I have something to say. Yes, I want to be on this podcast. Yes, I want to talk on that
Yeah.
stage. Yes, I want to write that article and be published. Right. And
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, well, let's start that platform. Let's start that community. Let's start the sisterhood where we can all encourage each other to do that. And then hopefully we can become the example for our future generations and other people who feel represented or are in marginalized communities. Right. So seeing
Yeah.
more people like us, right, making a splash, right, being
Yeah.
loud and getting our message out there. What I'm really hoping is that creates a ripple effect. And that
Wow.
eventually the goal is, there is equality, there is balance.
Yeah. I mean, it's such an important, it's funny, these things go together really well. I feel like equality, inclusion, and psychedelics,
Yeah.
you know, and it's just interesting how there's an awakening, I think, in not just psychedelics, but in spirituality and growth in a lot of humans
Mhm.
and what we're learning. I feel like there's a lot of lost knowledge. Like ancient people kind of knew a lot of this.
Oh, yeah.
Like modern people are like, oh, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
kind of funny, right? It's like the past and people, they understood the land and the medicine and ceremony. Ceremony is so important. It's so
Mhm.
important. As much as we try to get rid of it in our societies, like it's the transitions of life are so important.
Agreed. I think there's also a new, so along with I can't remember the acronym, but like the diversity, equity, inclusion, and whatnot, another concept that I'm hearing a lot about nowadays is like decolonization.
Mm,
Right. So it's like,
interesting.
people who came and took the lands and kind of, made the local people do things
Yeah,
their way. It's like, well, no, let's take back what is ours, right?
right.
Like this is our culture, this is our tradition. We want to be doing it our way. And
Yeah.
just having more of our stay and more a stake in the ground and just like staying strong with that.
It kind of reminds me of like in Washington, you have like Mount Rainier, I believe here. It's big mountain, but it's actually Mount Tahoma. That's the
Oh,
indigenous name. So my wife and I are like, I'm not calling it Mount Rainier. I'm like, it was Mount Tahoma. That's what it is. Like, but this things get always changed when people come and colonize different things. But
mm,
I just love kind of the culture, indigenous culture, and of people, they embrace spirituality so much. And they have such a reverence for the land and the
yeah.
sea. And like they were all like almost the original people about climate and caring about the land and going, wow, this is providing for me, in just a very basic sense. And I feel like we just forget about that, or we think we have this incredible dominion over things all the time that we just create and don't think about it. Create and
Mm,
don't. We do that all the time. We create and don't think, and just deal with the consequences later.
mm,
Whereas, like, that's one of the beautiful things about psychedelics is when you do it, all of a sudden your mind just explodes. Like you access all this stuff, this ancient highway of like, wow, I am part of this. I am part of
mm,
this planet. Like, actually, like, that was like the biggest revelation for me. It was like, wow,
mm,
like I am significant and also highly insignificant at the same time. Like,
mm.
I am nothing compared to the ocean. Nothing.
I think
Like,
one of the things that I've learned or have been taught along the way in this journey is I am you and you are me.
yeah.
So everything that I do, um, affects everyone else. Like we're all a mycelium network. We're all connected and interconnected in some way, shape, or form. So when, for example, somebody's like smoking a cigarette and they toss it into the forest fire and or into the forest and it starts a fire, like that affects everything. Right. So just having, and just using psychedelics in a way to have more like empathy and compassion and love and patience, and, you know, continuing that on and spreading that to other people, I think can only do us good.
I think so. So tell me, like, for you personally, how do you see your psychedelic experience progressing over time? Is there you someone who would do it regularly or kind of intermittently throughout time? How do you see that for yourself, or what do you do?
I think it really depends on which part of the world I'm in and what I have access to. So I've only ever done ceremonies. Well, the bulk of my ceremonies have been in Mexico, because it just feels like I'm on the land that is authentic to that medicine.
Yeah.
Right. So Oaxaca is known for magic mushrooms.
Right.
Mexico, like certain places in Mexico, is also known for like Huachuma, which is San Pedro or peyote, the cactuses, mescaline. And then there are people who come up from like Peru or Colombia and they do ayahuasca there. So like, to me, it's just like the perfect place to kind of sample whatever it is that you want to try next. But here at home, I have, my sources are like all psilocybin and mushrooms.
Yeah. Same.
So that's kind of like what I do. And I don't, so when I got into psychedelics, microdosing wasn't even a trend yet. Right. It was all about like macro doses, like the deep hero dose, the big doses and things like that, right? And so microdosing to me is still a pretty new concept. I have tried it. I don't think I've done it consistently enough to see the effects. However, I guess like a frequency basis, I think I would sit with some, or I would take some psychedelics once a month, once every 2-3 weeks or so. Yeah, not too often. And it wouldn't be like a big trip. Yeah. It would be like, maybe I want to go on a mini dose so I can like focus a little bit better. Yeah. Right. Or like I wanted to do some journaling and I just want to really like tap into myself. Right. Right. Yeah.
That's interesting. I think for people who are going to listen, they're going to find that interesting because there's so much unknown. Like for me, I don't really like microdosing. I don't know. Like, it's just, I've done them like, okay. You know, I'm like, I'm into the big trip, man. I'm with a big dose, but I don't want to do that often. Right. Like, because I need a bunch of time to process it in between. Yeah. Right. So that could be like a year for me, like in between, just like I'm going into another big experience next week, but it's been like over a year and a half for me. So I need like long stretches in between, because
that's a really good point that you just raised. And I think one of the like myths or like misconceptions that people have is, oh, it's the experience and that's all that matters. And it's really not. The experience is one part of the whole entire experience, the whole entire thing. And the thing that you really should be, or that I encourage people to consider and put more thought into, is what happens after your experience, after your trip. What are you doing? Yeah. How are you integrating that so that it is sustained change, that you are, you know, improving your life in some way, shape, or form. So like either journaling, picking up better self-care practices, going to see a therapist, maybe going on a microdosing protocol, maybe doing this and that, just like making changes so that you are, you know, happier, you know, being a better person and all that type of stuff.
It just takes time. I feel like it's like, how could you go on to have another huge experience when you haven't processed the other one you had?
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
And I think people
otherwise, I was gonna say, otherwise, if you don't integrate it, right, you don't process it, you're just collecting experiences. Yes. Which is still fine if that's your intention. But for me, it's like, hey, if I'm gonna put aside a full day to do this, I better get like an ROI out of it. You know, like I don't want to just be collecting. Like I want things to happen. I want me to be better. I want to, like, you know, improve and progress.
Isn't that one of the great different things about psychedelics? She's like, oh, I got to put a full day. I don't think a lot of people understand that, who don't know anything about it. Like, this isn't like your party, that type of thing. This is like, this is, you know, prepping, getting ready, going through it. And then, you know, when you're coming down and you're like it's just a different thing. Like I remember my first big experience, it took me hours after I had come out of it to like just deal with what just happened to me.
Yeah.
Like I was just so like blown out of my mind about what just happened. It just shook me. I needed that time. So it's like, it's like a whole day thing, you
Yeah,
know, which
the whole
should,
day thing just for the experience itself. And I think I would definitely, a rule of thumb is like for the next at least 2 days or so, depending on how big that experience is, like don't do anything. Like don't go
yeah.
back to work like it's all normal. Like,
Yeah.
take some time for yourself to like just, just like gather yourself, right? Because like
Yeah.
it's essentially, you never really know what's going to happen. And even though you can set intentions, it doesn't mean that that's what you're going to get. You're going to get what you need, not what you want.
Yeah.
And so like be prepared, right? Be prepared to get your snow globe shaken up.
Good way to look at that. I made the mistake of going when I was in Vegas. I was running a club, went back to work, and like all my buddies were like, you're not there. like you're like very weird and stuff. I was like, yeah, I should have been here today.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's like a
Take a
very
whole week off
noticeable
if you can.
change.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a noticeable change in the person and their feeling, you know, like it's just crazy actually. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
And I think it might even be a bit damaging actually for you to like jump back into your previous life or previous routine right away,
Mm,
because like you've changed, whether you acknowledge that or not. Like you have
yeah.
changed inside. Other people can't see that, right? Because you still look the same. But for you to then go back into the environment that you were when maybe you're trying to, move a step forward to be doing something else, that might just kind of offset a few things that
Yeah.
you're trying to do.
Yeah. Wow. I got to tell you, this is just, I want to talk to as many people like you as possible. And I
Oh,
want as many people to hear our discussion and different
mhm.
people for that. So, B, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it's right there at sistersinpsychedelics.org. But any other information that people can get on how to get in touch, please let everyone know.
For sure. So we're on Instagram. We're at Sisters in Psychedelics. We're also on LinkedIn, Sisters in Psychedelics. But that's really the only two social channels that we have at the moment. We also have our website.org. You can sign up for our mailing list where we will be announcing, or we are announcing exclusive updates and offers and invites on a bi-monthly basis. And we still have our meetup group on there for female identifying people only. We're over 400 members right now. From all over the world, actually. So once we rebranded, we started off as Vancouver Women in Psychedelics. And then in April, we rebranded to Sisters. And since then, it just removed the geographical barrier. And so what that meant was like people from like Germany and Russia, Spain, like, like all over the US, all over Canada, and like in Korea as well, joining and coming to our online events. So definitely, encourage everybody to do that.
Wonderful. B Chan, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.